I'm sure you've heard this catchphrase, train like an athlete. It sounds sexy, doesn't it? But I've realized, and I've talked about this topic on this channel often, after becoming a professional athlete, after pushing myself through a gruesome prep with a competition ahead of me in a couple of weeks, testing, trying, adapting, working according to the laws of periodization. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in this video. I've realized that if you are over 40 and you want to become strong, fit, and lean, you are not supposed to train like an athlete. And I'm going to give you the reasons why in this video. And if you're over 40 and you want to become strong, fit, and lean without going to the gym twice as fast, download my free ebook in the first link in the description. Grüezi miteinander, Gregory von Lebe Stark here. Let's take the marketing out of that catchphrase. But I want to preface this with something that I think is important when it comes to working according to the ideals of an athlete, or adopting the mindset, or making sure you don't give up, making sure your workout regimen is consistent. These are all pillars and fundamental aspects of an athlete that you can get inspired by. That you can say, you know what? I've watched this marathon runner, I watched this power lifter, I watched this bench presser, I watched this Olympic weightlifter, and I get inspired to move, and I get inspired to adapt, especially the mental aspect, the mental philosophy that these athletes use. Now, on this front, I'm 100% for using this type of framework to help you become strong, fit, and lean. The issue is, if you train like an athlete, you have to do one particular thing that is so important that if you don't do it, you're not an athlete unless you do CrossFit. And that is, you have to specialize. And once you start specializing, you're honing in on one particular motor ability or one particular physical quality that you need for your sport, abandoning other motor abilities and physical qualities, because it's a game of give and take. And I want to give you a little bit of insight into my prep. So here's what I'm doing. In November 2024, I've competed in my first snatch competition. I was able to snatch a 32 kg kettlebell in 5 minutes for 85 reps with one no count, which leads me with 84 reps. And in November, I started my prep for this upcoming February competition, which, by the way, if you want to watch it live, I have it in the description. And these were 3 to 4 months of gruesome prepping. So the first thing that I did is I took care of my GPP. This is what we call general physical preparedness or performance. By using these basic exercises that I'm always using, jerk, snatch, squat, just heavy implements of the exercise, and a half snatch, for example, with heavy bells, replicates the joint action that I have to perform in my event then. And then maybe 2 months in, I always did GPP first and SPP second. And what is SPP? So SPP is the specific physical preparedness or preparation. And once you're done with GPP, you enter the SPP phase, which is very crucial. And I had a conversation with Denis Vasilev, a legendary kettlebell world champion. And he told me, Gregory, you have to turn it around. SPP now comes first and GPP second. And GPP has to always get smaller as you get closer to your competition and as the volume increases. So that meant for me that I had to switch up my system, which I did. I completely turned it on its head because I trusted Denis that what he says must hold true if he's a world champion for like 10 or 11 times now. So I did this, and this was gruesome. And I also didn't like it that much because I love my GPP exercises, but of course they fell short in the end because the volume of my snatch prep with my GPP was so overwhelming that sometimes I couldn't even sleep at night. And I even felt it in my lower back and my whole body was tense. So I recognized I got to change something. Now, I'm a big believer of always making sure that all of these motor abilities are taken care of, but I had to specialize. So my workouts then started with a 10-minute snatch in the beginning and then some GPP. And as I got closer to the competition, I used heavier bells in my snatch, which meant the GPP was severely decreased. I had to reduce it. And now I'm in a very special phase of the prep, which I'm going to share in a second. But this is the major part that I want you to remember. I am now specializing in one particular movement. And once you understand the snatch properly, the snatch becomes a very endurance-based exercise, which means I probably lost some muscle. I gained some leg muscle, I saw that, but I lost some upper body muscle because my basic muscle building exercises went out the door because I was favoring my specialty. And this is what every athlete does, except for CrossFit. And why is it different in CrossFit? Well, in CrossFit, you actually have to become a master of GPP to a certain extent. You have to do some barbell work, some endurance work, some mobility work. So you need everything. You need the full package. But if you listen to what Satsiorski says, is you'll never peak if you do this. If you always want to bring the GPP up to full max, you won't be able to do this because certain physical qualities and certain motor abilities are diagonally opposed to each other. So if you want to build maximum strength, you're going to lose some endurance. If you want to build maximum endurance, you're going to lose some strength. And if you always try to bring up everything all at once, yes, CrossFit athletes are beasts. They're awesome. But they never beat an Olympic lifter. They also never beat a marathon runner. You get what I'm saying? Or even a sprinter. Because they'll never specialize to the fullest. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's not an Olympic sport. And maybe one day the Olympics will say, hey, it's supposed to be a sport, but now things are different. And so if you're over 40 and you want to get strong, fit, and lean, like many people want to in that age group, you need GPP. That's what you need. A little bit of muscle, a little bit of strength, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of endurance, a little bit of mobility, a little bit of flexibility, a little bit more coordination. And you don't want to invest too much time because you got everything going in your life. And what does Satsiorski say? Satsiorski says, hey, if you do mix and match training, circuit training that we offer with kettlebells, because I believe the kettlebell is the king of GPP, you are not achieving your maximum potential. Because the body substrates and these motor abilities are always competing. Satsiorski calls it conflicting demands. But guess what? If you're a rower or if you need a sport where you need some strength endurance, where you have to have a little bit of both, it might make sense, but still, you'll always lag behind because you're not able to either build full explosiveness, full strength, or full endurance, because this is where the specialty comes in. And now you might say, well, that's a bad situation. No, it's not, because you don't have to lift a 200 kilogram deadlift or a 500 kilogram deadlift. You don't have to run a marathon below 2 hours. You don't have to do it. You just need a little bit of it. And this is the crucial mindset that I want you to engage in. If you train like an athlete, you'll always specialize because you want to become good at one particular thing, and therefore sacrificing other aspects of physical qualities on that altar. And now my current prep, for example, is completely different. And it's not a lot of joy, let me tell you. I don't really enjoy it, which is kind of a hint that I'm not an athlete by heart. I like it. I want to get my Master of Sport, maybe even the Master of Sport International class, maybe this or next year. I don't really care if God is willing. But an athlete, especially elite athletes, push through the boredom and always go balls to the walls, even if they don't like it. And I recognize this specific prep is not a lot of fun. And now I'm in the so-called delayed transformation phase. Again, according to Satsiorski, what I want to do now, 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks out from the competition, is not load my body up with too much volume, but still get accustomed to the maximum weight that I have to do. And I got a CF max recently. This is my strength, my TF max, pardon me. So I got a max in my training, which was 146 reps with a 28 kg, where I kind of like went a little bit balls to the walls, and I was really happy with that result. But now I have to be very careful. I don't want to push my body too hard. And now I have a specific plan because I want to engage into that delayed transformation phase so I can get these gains that I got from these 4 months of prep, that they are now shining on competition day. So if I keep pushing and going balls to the walls and do all the stuff that I really want to do, I'm going to push my body too hard. I have to slow down everything. And that's why it's called delayed transformation. All the gains from those 4 months are now delayed, and a delayed effect is taking place. And now I need so-called residual training to make sure that I can somehow package these gains into my sports abilities. And now, if this sounds very confusing to you, I get you. You know what Satsiorsky says in his book? Strength training is complex. And I try to make it easy. Many coaches try to make it easy. YouTubers try to make it easy, which is fine. This is my job. I want you to understand this concept at a very basic level. But we cannot explain away the fact, even with the ultimate basic principles, that strength training remains highly complex for the simple reason, because if you want to specialize in one particular thing and get very good at it, you have to use a specific strategy and a system. And this is how athletes train. And it sometimes really bothers me when people say, well, this is the perfect athlete's workout. Some isolated strength movements with one leg, one arm, blah, 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 blah. This is all crap. In most of the situations, you have an athlete who prepares for GPP with some basic exercises and then specializes. And if the athlete then specializes, he or she is using specific weighted exercises, if they're even weighted, different methods. You have the max effort, you have the repeated effort, you have the dynamic repeated effort, you have the suboptimal effort, you have all these different systems and different periodizations to play in to maximize the joint action that you actually then use and replicate it in sports training so that you get better at your sport. So it doesn't make sense to train like an athlete. It just doesn't. It should be get inspired by an athlete, but don't train like one. Train like an everyday person. And let me tell you, I can't wait to get back to my everyday training routine where I can still use some form of periodization, but have a lot of fun. Because the most fun that I have is lifting heavy bells, 2 bells overhead, getting some muscle, getting some strength. And I am still in that strength endurance realm to a certain extent, but the snatch, I'm like, oh, I'm happy when I'm done with it. And so if you are inspired by athletes and you want to take their philosophies to the heart and improve your fitness, this is great. But be careful when you hear somebody tell you that you're supposed to train like one. It is a completely different beast. And if we want to take the complex out of the strength training realm, then we want to focus on GPP. A couple of squats, a couple of swings, a couple of presses, a couple of farmer's walks. This is going to improve your fitness to a level that you have never seen before, but it's never going to turn you into an ultimate elite athlete. So never mix the two. So here's the next thing that you have to do. Clean and press that like and subscribe button. Share with a friend who's also interested in kettlebells. And if you made it this far, download my free ebook in the first link in the description called the Kettlebell Code. If you're over 40, 50, or 60, you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to take care of your fitness, this is where the kettlebell comes in. And I'm going to show you how to get started with my ebook. So download it right now. It's free, 100%. You find it in the first link in the description on the pinned comment.